Welcome to Life, Lessons, and Laughter with your host, Glenn Ambrose.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. So today I have a special guest on, Jen Mons, and I'm going to bring her on right now so we can find out a little bit more about her. Hey, Jen.
Hi, how are you?
Wonderful. Thank you for joining me. I'm excited.
Me too. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, you were nice enough to have me on your podcast, and it was such a great experience. I had to return the favor. So the conversation just flowed so well. It was wonderful.
Yeah, totally. And then as I watched your little video, I was like, man, we are totally kindred spirits. Like it's like kite surfing and hang gliding. I'm like, what a life. Yeah, we love the same
things. That's a beautiful thing. No wonder why there's a good flow.
For sure. Yeah, I might be creating one of those little videos of my own here pretty soon. I was like, wow, that's the kind of person we want to hang out with. That's a fun person.
Yes. Yeah. What do you call a mushroom that buys all the drinks?
Oh, geez. I'm so bad at a fun guy. Is that it?
Fun guy to be with.
I got it. I'm usually so bad at jokes, but I got it.
You got it. We're already in the flow.
Already.
So, yes, you like the adrenaline stuff. So that's cool.
Isn't it so interesting to be, on a path of like coming to that point in our life where we're accepting and slowing down and surrendering, yet we still have this little fire that we like to, experience life to the fullest, I guess you could say, and don't want to miss out on the fun stuff. Yeah.
I think it's honestly, I think we need it. I think there's a place for everyone in this world, but a lot of the spiritual teachers and that type of stuff, like we're used to like the Eckhart Tolle type and the Deepak Chopra type, and not that Deepak Chopra has a really good sense of humor, let's be fair, but there's more dryness and very serious, and it's like, man, that's not why I'm here. Like I want to have some fun and goof around and be silly.
Yeah, I tried that. I tried for a couple of years. Like really, it felt like at the beginning of, kind of what I guess people call the spiritual awakening, or I think it happened a few times, but it did. Like at first I was like, okay, meditation, and I'm going to check into my wisdom. And I really missed the part of me that I was remembering, the part of me that loved to explore and be adventurous and have fun. And, I see it in my kids and my husband, and it's not that it was ever gone, but for like, I did notice that it's sometimes people take spiritual growth a little too seriously. And so I'm happy that, and I went through some really hard things. And when I finally kind of came full circle, I think a lot of us go through adversity as we're in our growing, and it's not fun, but like at the end of the day, you get to choose how you're going to remember your experiences. And, one of the things I heard myself say to my daughter the other day, and then I thought to myself, wow, that was a really good thing to say, was, everything that you want is on the other side of your fear. And it's just so true. It's like, I would rather try than not try, I guess, and just be here and have the experience than not have the experience.
Yeah. And we all have to, there's going to be some people that don't, like, some people think I'm absolutely insane, which is fine. I mean, I don't think I am, but like just for some of the adventurous stuff that I like and stuff. And it's, I love skydiving and stuff like that. And so some people, they have no interest in that, and they shouldn't do it because they have no interest in it, and that's our guidance system. But I mean, for those of us that are interested in it, it's like, oh my God, yes, please, twice, because it's why, I think we're here to enjoy. What's the point? That's how I always get back to it. Like, why am I doing all this hard work? Why did I go through all that pain? Why have I focused on my growth so much? Like, what's the point?
Yeah.
It's to experience joy and love and laughter and excitement and fun. And, I just want to, I said this to somebody earlier today. Like, at the end of it all, I want to come sliding into head first with my hair on fire, doing Mach 10, going, holy crap, that was an incredible ride.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my meat suit's going to be all banged up, and I'm going to be like, you guys ain't going to be able to recycle that one. Like, that thing's been used.
That was a funny image, actually. Never really.
Just here, this one's all beat up. You just take this right to the trash bin.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah. So, well, this has been we could just banter all night, I think, with with this type of stuff, but we do have a purpose for getting here. So let's why don't you tell the people a little bit about yourself, since you can do that the best, and then we'll go from there.
Awesome. Well, I'm a coach and a mentor and a healer, and I love to work with women. I've had kind of many lives in this life. I started out my earlier life as a military graduate, engineer, like just so programmed and in the box, and had a near-death experience 16 years ago with the birth of my first daughter, which was really my first awakening, and then had a second health crisis 8 years later. And there was always this kind of common theme of like overworking and proving myself, and never really like just being who I really was. I was always seeking external validation. And so my work really invites those type of women in. It's the overachiever, the perfectionist, the people who are just really, focused on results, and they forget to enjoy life. And so they have maybe success in one area, but the three biggest areas that I see breakdowns in are health, love, and money. And so what I do is I work with 5-element wealth, WELLTH, which I, through my 12 years of coaching, have really, and through my own adversity and all of the clients I worked with, I've really come to this truth for me that well-being is really 5 elements. We all hear of physical, so body wisdom, which is really, taking care of the vessel that holds our spirit. I guess the meat suit, you called it. The mental aspect of it, the mindset. So body, mind, spiritual, emotional, and then a financial piece, which we're going to talk about prosperity consciousness today, which is really just getting to the idea. It's really just looking at it in terms of everything as energy. And so, just an energy of giving and receiving and amplifying our voices and values in the world through energy. And so food is energy, emotions are energy, love is energy. And we get to choose, we get to just kind of be the dance of life and exist through it. And, we just get to have these experiences, which is a thing, right? Like, that's so awesome. We get to. And prosperity consciousness is something I've started teaching over the past 2 years, which is really just the idea of abundance in just the fullness of life, like how we started talking. And it's like heart is full and spirit is full and relationships are full. And it's in a place where most of the women that I work with, what they struggle with is actually receiving. And so being in that cycle of, giving and receiving, and being able to give from a place of overflowing. And
amen.
It's a really, and it's not to say that we're always there, but when you look at Mother Nature, like you think of a spring, like just water's just coming out of the earth, and the plants in the middle of nowhere, they have everything they need to survive. Like, nature really does have everything it needs to survive. And so really just living in that, kind of consciousness of just slowing down and receiving the fruits of our efforts and the energy of life.
Yeah, and I think, part of people waking up, I mean, people have this anyway. I mean, we have a desire to be a good person. Most people have that. But I think with people waking up, it's even more expanded because we're opening up to love as a way of being and all this stuff. So people want to be a good person, and a lot of the social conditioning around receiving is it's better to give than to receive, and you're a good person if you give. Nobody tells you you're a good person if you receive. And it's all this unconscious patterning that I think really puts a block on people receiving. And most people need to do some work on that. It's just because we're not, we're conditioned that if, it's kind of along the same lines of self-love and self-care. We're so conditioned to focus on everybody else outside of us that we don't focus on ourselves. And it's that, so therefore, well, let me give. And most people don't give from the overflow because they have no self-care. They have no self-love, or low self-love and no self-care, but so they just give, deplete. And they're exhausted and they don't have anything else to give, and they're hanging on by a thread. And that's just not a way to go through life. And, I think it's like in that time of life where you're having children and a career, that's the busiest time in anyone's life, male or female. It's like when you're invested in your children's lives and you have a career, you have two big things going on at once, So it's going to be the busiest time of our lives. And most people, what they do is they just completely deplete themselves. And then what happens is we teach our children how to deplete themselves. They'll listen to half of what we say if we're lucky, but they're going to pay attention to 100% of what we do. So this is why I think it's so important to integrate that self-care into our daily lives and let them see it. Like a lot of times I'll be like, you have to meditate every day. And they'll be like, well, I have small kids. They don't understand. Teach them.
Do it with them. Yeah.
Yeah. Do it with them. Teach them that this. I used to set my microwave timer when my son was little, so he could see the time, because, he didn't have a concept of time. So like I would set the microwave timer for like 10 minutes or 15 minutes. And I'd be like, you're not allowed to knock on the door when I'm in my room meditating. You're not allowed to do that. Like you teach them just like you teach them anything else, and it's actually, to me, it's actually easier teaching them this stuff because they read energy so well. So like, and if you point it out, they'll probably get it in like 1 or 2 times, but like they notice your energy coming out of the room as opposed to how it was going in. So there was a few times throughout my son's life, he was like, do you need to go into your room and meditate? I'm like, yes, I think I do.
My children have by far been my greatest teachers, and you can't really fool them. Like they do see it, and they feel it. And they only speak the truth too. It's like that's because especially at a younger age. And you're so right. And in all of that, and another thing, a couple of things were coming through for me. One, I have been in the practice for 2 years of removing the word busy from my vocabulary. To me, busy feels misaligned. And so I am in that stage of life. I run my own business. I actually own 3 companies. I'm a manifesting generator. If you're familiar with human design, I've got a lot of creative energy.
Me too.
You are, of course you are.
Yeah.
That's
interesting.
Yeah. So, so for those of you not familiar with human design, there are a lot of tools out there. And this one I was introduced to about 5 years ago. And it to me, it is giving me a deeper understanding of the people around me when I understand their human design and of myself. It's kind of an energetic profile, but manifesting generators are predominantly generators, but they have this manifesting. They love to create. We tend to be, other people can get a little tired being around us because we got a lot of fire and a lot of energy. And really, our purpose is to learn to know ourselves and to respond only to the things that are aligned with our intuition. So it's a little trick because, we can do all these things, and it's kind of really fun too. But there is a point where it's like, okay, like slow down and respond to the things that are only aligned with us. So busyness is a word that I chose to remove from my language, and I now use the word abundant. My schedule is abundant, and it just kind of shifts the energy a little bit, because busyness to me, I just hear people use that all the time. I'm too busy. I don't have the time. And the truth is we all have the same time. It's how we choose to use it that is different. And then the other point I wanted to speak to that's so interesting is, as you were speaking, it's like, how interesting that we create these subconscious saboteurs of a martyr or a victim or a people pleaser or a fixer or a rescuer. As you were speaking about how hard it is to receive, and I've been in integrative wellness and energy healing for 12 years now, and I've been there, and I've been surrounded by many people, and we don't have to do that. We don't have to give ourselves away to be present and for others. And in fact, we are the best version of ourselves when, as I said before, we give from that place of overflowing. And you spoke to that beautifully.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah, and it's true. It's we have these martyr mentalities, and it's really diminishing us. And it's like when I was receiving was something like receiving was so foreign to me. I was always just very independent. Like I just did everything myself. And so I never took help or anything from anybody. And so it was hard for me. And like, I remember when I first woke up, like this was probably within the first 6 months, like 19 years ago or 18 years ago or something. I was sitting there and I was having I was actually listening to a conversation with about 5 or 6 other guys. And there was this one guy that I really respected. Was very, like I was in recovery at the time. So he seemed to have really good sobriety and very grounded and connected to himself. And it was this older guy, and he was probably my age.
Right.
He was probably younger than I am now, so it was this older guy, and and I just respected him. I liked how he carried himself and stuff and how he spoke. And he was talking, and there was several of us just kind of standing around listening and talking back and forth. And somebody stuck their head into the circle, and they're like, "I'm so sorry to interrupt. I have to leave. But I just wanted to take a moment." And they were talking to this guy, and they said, "I just want to take a moment to say thank you. That talk we had the other day really helped, and I worked through everything. And I just want to say thank you for your help. It meant a lot." And as this was happening, it was like I left my body or something. And I was a witness, and I could almost see the energy. And I would look at the guy, and when this guy came in and said, "Excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt," he just stopped talking, and it focused his energy, his attention on this guy, like effortlessly, and with no resentment, no irritability, no nothing. And he just focused on this guy. The guy said, "Thank you. I really appreciate it." The guy looked at him and he went, "You're welcome." The guy ducked out of the circle and left. The guy got his attention back on what he was saying, and he started talking again and picked up where he left off. And I went,
like, did that just happen?
What just happened? This guy just like got interrupted mid-sentence. It didn't faze him. He put his attention lovingly. I could feel him receive the compliment.
That's huge.
And I was like, and then he said something so simple and profound. He said, "You're welcome."
Yeah.
Effortlessly,
Yeah.
meaningfully. He meant you're very welcome. I'm glad it helped. You could feel that he meant that. There was honesty in his words. And then he went back to life as if this miracle hadn't occurred. And I was just like,
That's so awesome.
and I remember I was like, I want to be like that someday.
Yeah.
I want to be able to receive a compliment. I didn't even know what had happened. I was like, whatever the hell happened, I want to be able to do it someday. And, eventually I started understanding things. And, but I always remembered that. And that's where it kind of started for me, being able to receive compliments.
That's where I think that's so funny, because that's exactly what I tell women. That's where it starts. It's the smallest, it seems like the smallest thing. But that, I don't know how we're on the same page again, but that's exactly what I believe too. It's receiving compliments, because so easily we dismiss them. Like, oh yeah, thanks. Oh, no worries, no problem. And
yeah.
it
was nothing.
Oh yeah, no.
Isn't that the worst? We completely
no.
diminish the other person without even knowing we're doing it. No, you're really not even worth my time. It was not. If I had anything better to do, I definitely wouldn't have done that for you.
Yeah. I mean, I'm telling you, a couple years ago, I witnessed a similar thing. And I remember watching a woman stop what she was doing and turn her body and say, "Thank you. I'm receiving that." And I say that every time now. And what's even better is, in the last probably year, and it's subconscious. I'm like, every time. I mean, the work that we do, like, people tell me, "Oh, my podcast." And I used to be like, "Oh yeah, thank you." And now I'm like, "Oh, thank you. I am receiving that. And I'm believing it now." It's like, I'm receiving it and I'm believing it, because you know what? Yeah. Like, you're right. That was a good show. I am doing good things in the world. Thank you for seeing it. And I see you for seeing me. Your welcome is just as much as a gift back, because a genuine "you're welcome" is like, your gift is being received, right? I mean, it wouldn't feel good if you gave a gift to somebody and they just like threw it over their shoulder, right?
Right.
Same kind of thing. And it's so interesting that you shared that story, because I really do believe it's a gateway, like our voice, our throat, like it's energy, right? It's a conversation. Our energetic field opens up to receive, literally, when we receive the compliment. It's beautiful. And that is the foundation of prosperity. And every spiritual teacher has talked about prosperity, and prosperity is it's just an energy of life. It's an energy of just giving. It's abundance, and in all of the ways that it can come in love and relationships and health, and just by the very food that you eat, and receiving payment for your services. Or I received a sponsorship for my podcast. That's something I'm adding. Like, I'm like, wow, this is super cool. Like, the fruits of my efforts are being received. And that's sometimes it feels like a labor of love, and sometimes it is. And then eventually it starts to get received. And I'm telling you, Glenn, that small nominal fee for a podcast sponsorship meant more to me than the 20 times payment that I got from like a client, just because it was the energy that and this person said to me, "I just want you to know that this is like, I see you and I support you." And I was just like, "Oh, thank you."
Yeah. How does it get better than that?
Like,
I see you and I support you.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, my podcast, I've been uploading on the Insight Timer for years, and they have a donation option there. So sometimes people will listen and they'll send a donation. A lot of times it's $1.99, $4.99, very minimal amounts of money. But like, I always make sure I go in and personally thank every person that does that. And I try to say something unique to each person, but I try to include something like, I appreciate your support, because that's what it is. I mean, whether somebody gives me $1.99 or not is not going to really affect my life. But what it is, it's energetically supporting me. And that means everything, that's like, wow, you thought enough about my podcast that you just stopped what you were doing and made a decision to take action to send me a monetary gift. Like that whole process means everything. The $1.99 is just a symbol of the energy that they're sending. Yes. And it's like, wow. And it really does. It means a lot. It's not, I don't look at it as $1.99. I look at it that they stopped and thanked me in a specific way that took effort. So they must really have enjoyed, what I put out.
Yeah, that's super awesome. That's a great idea. I feel that way when I get reviews for my podcast, or just any praise at all, because I've also practiced, like, I've made it an intention to, I think it throws people off sometimes too, but to really like send those extra words of gratitude and follow up afterwards, because I'm telling you, there's this paradigm, this story that I'm really kind of over about, like, I'm too busy. It's like, no, you get to choose where you put your intention and your energy, and wherever you choose to put your intention, energy flows, and that becomes your life story. When for years, 8 years, I was really deep into health coaching, holistic health and functional medicine, and detoxification. And, that's one part of our well-being, the physical aspect of it. It's an important part. It's not everything. And
I was a personal trainer for 15 years.
So you start, and so many spiritual teachers like start that way. It's kind of like it keeps evolving. Like, my second health crisis was at the peak of eating clean. So I was like, okay, like, I'm very clairaudient. It was like voice came in my head, like, you can eat as healthy as you want, but if you don't heal your spirit. And I was like, oh man, my work's not done. Like, I got round 2, became a yoga teacher, meditation teacher, energy healer, started, really doing some shadow work and reprogramming the subconscious of my own, and then getting trained in it and doing it for other clients. But it's I think I kind of lost track a little bit, but the wellness part is, it's just part of it. And what I was going to say is, in that, it's like, energetically, you can, if you're in fight or flight, if your nervous system is all whack and you're in anxiety, it doesn't matter how healthy you're eating, your body cannot assimilate and process the nutrients, because your whole digestive system is tight, all your energy is tight. And so it might go right through you, or it might not even be assimilated, and it might get stored with cortisol in your fat cells. Like, literally, that's kind of a way that tangibly people can relate to the physical body a little bit easier, because they can see the effects of it. But that's what saying grace is, taking a deep breath, like humming, oming. That's where we get that, resets the nervous system. And so many of us, or at least in my world, the women I work with, the former version of me, we're running kids around every night and like working 10, 12 hours. Social media, the phone is crazy because there's no boundaries anymore. And so we really have to be intentional and slow down and enjoy all the moments and be intentional with how we spend our time. I believe time is our most precious resource. It's one thing that we can't get back. So
right. Yeah. It's our life currency. We have to be very careful how we spend it, because we only have so much, and we don't even know how much that is. We could be gone tomorrow and be like, whoops.
Yeah.
So let's spend it intentionally. Yeah. Like when I wrote my book, I was reaching out to people for endorsements and stuff of the book. And I reached out to this guy, the Miracle Man. What was his, I got to check. I don't want to slight this guy. Morris Goodman, that's what it was. So Morris Goodman is known as the Miracle Man. Like he got into this huge plane crash and destroyed most of his body and brought himself back. And he's an amazing guy with an amazing story. And he said to me, he goes, well, I'm not going to endorse your book until like I'd have to talk to you and read it and stuff like this. I said, absolutely understandable. So he said in his email, he says, I'll talk to you at 2 p.m. tomorrow sharp. And I was like, isn't that interesting? He said sharp. So, I mean, I'm usually pretty conscious of time and on time and stuff as a general rule. So I was ready at 2 o'clock and the phone rang dead at 2 and there he was. And I was like, hi. I was like, and I kind of giggled. I was like, wow, you are right on time. I noticed you said 2 p.m. sharp and here you are 2 p.m. on the nose. And he got real serious right off the bat. And he was like, he said, I never met anybody that was successful that wasn't conscious of their time.
That is so true.
And I was like, ooh, I was pretty conscious of my time, but he took it to a whole new level with that statement and a few others.
Well, I think there's an element of self-respect around that I have an interesting story with time, and my love language is quality time, but I grew up with a father in the military. So it's like, if you're on time, you're late. And so, I think I even went to a military academy and I sort of like because of that, I didn't want to have to manage time.
Right.
Well, I didn't want to have a relationship with time. It's like if I knew that my dad struggled with finances, I didn't want to have a relationship with money because it caused grief. And so these are things that I have since healed. But what I did, and this is what we do, is, for some people it's food or it's money or a job or even a marriage. Like if you didn't have an example of what that could look like in a healthy way, then you might avoid it. Or sometimes if we have, a lot of trauma in one area, we turn out totally different, right? Because we know what we don't want. There's a couple of things that can happen. And so it's one of the things that I'm still working with. Like, I love time. I do the work I do for time freedom. Yeah. And I do it because I love what I'm doing. As a manifesting generator, there are many things that we can do, but I also only choose to do what I love. And that means I also choose a lot of time with my family. I went surfing for 4 hours yesterday. It's like that is really important to me, and to travel a lot. We travel a lot. And at the same time, this is, I think, something that I'm definitely working on healing, because I talk so much about energy alignment versus time management. And there's time management is energetically, it's very confining, right? It's like, we all have the same 24 hours in the day. When people say I don't have time for something, it makes me really curious. It's like, so basically, what are your values? Look at your calendar and your credit card bill and ask yourself, are my values aligned with where my money and time go? Because those are really the two biggest resources that we have to amplify our values into the world. Really, yes. It's a really big thing to consider, because the more that we buy organic food, we say this matters. The more that we support our local farmers, we say this matters. Whatever we put our money into and our time is where we put our values, and those get amplified as a collective. And yet, sometimes I get so lost in the moment that I'll be in a coaching session and I'm always working on it, but I'm always like pushing. I don't know if it's the manifesting generator, like maximizing life. I'm also an Enneagram 7. I don't know if you.
A 7. I'm a 7 in Vedic astrology. I don't know if that's the same.
So Enneagram's like a personality test. The 7 is like the life enthusiast. And so we're like, trying to fit it all in and do the whole thing. And so that's kind of where it becomes the shadow, right? It's like we're trying to maximize everything and fit it all in. But I really do think, as I heard you say that, like, it's so true. Time integrity. It's like it's another way that we get to be in integrity with truth. It's like we honor our word and we respect other people's time and our own time for ourselves. And why does this matter? Because prosperity consciousness is all about receiving, and not being conscious of our time can easily turn into overgiving or overtaking of somebody else's.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree. I think we have to pay attention. We have to be mindful, conscious, and consciously choose what we're doing. Most people go through life and they're just doing, it's that busyness, and they're just doing, and you go, oh, well, like when COVID hit, I started losing clients, and I was like, wait a minute, wait. Like, as soon as trouble comes, as soon as life gets difficult, the first thing you cut out is self-care. What is that saying about what, how seriously you think about your own well-being? Like, this is, whenever I'm in a difficult moment in my life, and I had to teach myself to do this, whenever my life starts getting more complicated or difficult, or I'm going through a difficult scenario, I double down on my self-care. I don't eliminate it. I mean, I used to eliminate it a long time ago until I kicked my own ass a few times, and then now I double, triple down. When COVID hit, I was meditating like 4 times a day. And it was because I could feel the energy coming. And I was like, I need to triple down on what I'm doing here to really get the most out of whatever this wave of energy is going to turn into. And, and here I am, I ended up moving over to the Dominican Republic and starting a new life, so it's like, but if you pay attention to where, like you said, where your attention goes, the energy flows. Like, if you ask most people, what did you do to make your life experience a happier one in the last 2 weeks? Most people are going to go, what do you mean?
Yeah, I know.
It's
I'm laughing, but it's also it's heartbreaking. It's like,
yeah, well, it's like, well, how do you think, why do would you like to live a happy life? Oh my God, yes. What are you doing to achieve that? Like, what do you, how do you think somebody, like, there's a happiness fairy that's going to come knock on your door? Like, how do you expect to achieve it? You have to actually put energy. And I think one of the beautiful parts about this universe is that we are rigged to win. Like, the universe knows how it is. The universe doesn't say like, oh, well, if your spirituality and peace and love and happiness was really important to you, then you would have to spend 8 or 10 hours a day practicing it. No, it doesn't say that. It says you can still go to your job. You can still work 8, 10 hours a day. And then all I'm asking for you is to put a little bit of time towards your own peace and your own happiness.
Yeah.
10, 20 minutes a day will change your life, if it's really focused, and it's a start, and it'll probably lead into other things too. But I mean, it doesn't take that much, but we do have to act like it matters.
Yeah, you just have to put the intention on it. And that's what is so nice about having a coach or a mentor or somebody to support you in that process, really, because they're there to hold that vision with you. They're there to be there with you in the process and to guide you. And, the awesome part of it is you and I both know that it just continues to get easier. Like, because you no longer have to think about it, because you are it. You embody eating well, you embody presence, so much of my energy went to lack of emotional integrity for so long because I never gave myself permission to really be present with any of my emotions. I pushed them down like many of us do. And, when I about 6 years ago started some spiritual life coach training and took myself like deep into the mountains and, really hung out with myself in quiet for some time, and you really and I was given a safe space to really explore my shadows. And I will say that for me personally, although it's not fun, that's not the fun part of it, but it's given me so much freedom. On the other side of it, it's like, oh, well, I've seen I've seen the devil in me. Like I've seen the work.
Yeah.
I've seen the dark night of the soul. And I didn't like it, but I know what it is. And it's kind of like, I'm here. I'm here, and I'm here for all of it. I'm here for all of it.
And that's where your freedom comes, that like one of my favorite words is non-issue. When something's a non-issue, that's when you've transcended it. When there's no emotional charge, there's no fear of it. This is why, like my journey started in recovery, getting sober. And like, I hear people talking about, sobriety. I've been sober for 25, 30 years, one day at a time. And it's a daily struggle. And I'm like, oh my God, that's horrible. Like, what? My God, it's like, you have to work at this every day for 20, 30 years. Please don't tell the public that. Like, it doesn't have to be like that. I haven't thought about a drink in 19 years. It's literally a non-issue. It's just not an issue. I don't like tomatoes because they're all larvae in the middle and grosses me out.
That's funny.
And I don't drink alcohol. And both of them have the same emotional charge. I don't dive under the table when I see a tomato come out. And I don't run from a bottle of alcohol when I see it, It's just a non-issue. So like that, I was blessed to kind of get that right off the bat. And then as I started doing my even further work and transcending it, because like I blew open in the first 3 months. So my whole spiritual journey, like I opened up to all kinds of stuff in that first 3 months. So I was supposed to be about recovery, but for me, it was about everything. It was about the entire universe all at once. And it took me years to kind of understand it. But I got that non-issue like right off the bat. So then as I started doing further work and understanding things more and transcending other things, and they became non-issues, I recognized it. And I was like, oh, non-issue. That's freeing when nothing can control you, when you have freedom of choice and you can live freely without fear.
Yeah. And for me, the word that comes up, and I'm just thinking, for the listeners, like, because there's also this like stigma, there's this judgment against like bypassing, right? And that's not what we're saying. We're not spiritually bypassing. The difference is that we witness, or for me, I guess in my words, I witness, but there's no longer an attachment to an identity or a story of what it means about me. It's just, I witness my own self. I witness myself in victim consciousness. I've done that before. I've witnessed myself in the rescuer, the martyr. I've witnessed myself in pride. I've witnessed myself in the full spectrum of all of it. But the difference is I now witness it. I am not consumed by it. And so
it doesn't control your behavior. Neutral. Right. It's neutral. Yeah. And it's definitely not spiritual bypassing, because to truly transcend something, you have to go into it. Like, spiritual bypassing is going around it or over it. Yeah. It's like, no, I'm going right smack dab in the middle of it, no matter how painful it is, no matter how, excruciating it is, and standing in there. And then after I've transcended, I'll go back in there just to see if there's any energy left. Go back in there and be like, does this bother me?
That takes courage.
No. Okay. Yeah. Then I fully transcended it. Now it's a non-issue. Until I can stand in a situation that used to trigger me without being triggered, then it's not a non-issue.
Yeah, and I love to that word that you used, triggered. It for me, what I've noticed is that we get to a point where the trigger becomes an activation. So it's not the same response. Like a trigger is very much like kind of disempowered, or can, because we're kind of stuck, and we're not saying that those things don't happen. There is trauma. There are things that are going to trigger you and you don't know what to do. And that time you do need support. And when you're committed to doing the work, eventually what used to trigger you then becomes an activation for choice. And
Right.
again, that's part of prosperity is freedom. So choice, freedom. Like you become in that consciousness of like, okay, I get to choose how I'm going to respond to this and what I'm going to make out of this, you know?
It's an opportunity.
Yeah. And
It's an opportunity to bring it up, heal, work through it, or whatever, as opposed to a problem. You know, nothing is good or bad. It just is.
right.
It's like if we view it as a problem, it's a problem. If we view it as an opportunity, it's an opportunity. You know, so it's like, yeah, when we get triggered, there's a choice there. And it's like, okay, what am I going to do? Am I going to lean into this and try to heal it? Something's coming up to try to come out. Am I going to help that and be a part of that? Or am I going to stuff it back down in until it gets triggered again? You know?
I love the beach ball analogy. You know, when you're trying to push those big beach balls underwater,
Yeah.
and then like you push it down so much and it comes up and pops you in the face because you gotta dissipate the energy and release it. And one of the words that keeps coming up as I hear you speak is that, like, we totally get, like, I totally get that it might sound easier than it is, but it is all,
Yeah.
but it also is a choice. And what prosperity, the consciousness of prosperity, is embodied trust. It came to me when I was, after going through another challenging experience, is really, for me, I don't know if it's been part of my story or if it happens a lot, but I have heard quite a few guests on my show share the same thing, that it's really in those challenging experiences that become the moments of surrender, that it really just cracks us open to kind of like the soul upgrade. For me, I call my near death experience my health crisis. Another huge painful thing that I went through last year, it's like a soul upgrade. It really stinks kind of when you're in it, but everything is temporary, and it does pass, and you do get to choose how you're going to respond and what you're going to learn and grow from it. And the energy, it does, what I've noticed, that the part that people struggle with the most is the trust piece. And I think, part of it for you and I probably is just that we've been there and done that a couple times. So it's like we kind of know now, like, we got this, like, we'll come through it, we'll make the best of it, we'll keep going. But there is also, the willingness, the commitment, like you said, set the intention for 5-10 minutes a day. And where you put that intention really does define sort of like your energetic signature, your frequency that you carry every day. Is it fear-based? Because if it is, it's low. Is it unconditionally love-based and open to receiving? Because if it is, there might still be things that your soul wants to work on that might sting a little bit every once in a while. But again, you get to a place where it becomes less of an issue, because you've worked on yourself enough or through it enough to know that there's this element of trust that it's going to be okay. Like, it's
Yeah, I think your resistance, if you're living consciously, your resistance is going to start dropping, because because why not? Like, if you're going to be going through a painful or difficult experience, you're going to be going through a painful or difficult experience, period. So how do you want to spend that time? Do you want to spend that time growing and then coming out with a soul upgrade? Or do you want to get dragged through it, kicking and screaming, experiencing double the pain because you're resisting what's actually happening? That's kind of your choices. Now, is it easy? No, it's not easy, but it's really simple. And that's why, I say that a lot. It's not, because you're right. Like sometimes when we're talking so matter of factly, other people think like, oh, they make it sound so easy. It's like, no, I don't mistake what I'm saying. By no means do I think this is easy, but I do think it's simple. And that actually has helped me in a lot of situations where I was searching for the courage or the faith or the trust to get through something. It's just knowing that. It's given me that courage that I know if I can see the dynamic of something and I see like something small and something big and they're the same dynamic, like, and this is simple and this is hard.
Yeah.
Or this is easy and this is hard. Then like for me intellectually, I can go, well, I know it's not going to be easy, but it's simple. And that gives me comfort because I'm like, it's no different than I did in this small circumstance. It's the exact same dynamic. It's the exact same thing. I have to do the same thing. Yes, it's a little larger, so it's going to require more effort and it's probably going to hurt a little more, but it doesn't change the dynamic. I just have to do what I did there. The same thing, just the same thing. And then that kind of calms me. And I start thinking, okay, maybe I can do this, just because I keep it simple. I don't lie to myself and pretend it's going to be easy, but the simple aspect comforts me.
Yeah. It's like, what is that next small aligned step? Just that next step. Just like
that next step.
Foot in front of.
That's it. Well, so what do you think? Like, I was thinking earlier about the prosperity consciousness. What do you think is the biggest block to receiving? Do you think it's a egoic block or a conditioned block or?
I think a lot of it is the conditioning of being busy and overworking and trying to prove our worth and our value and our existence and what we do, not who we are. That's what I see all the time. And I've struggled with it myself. I have a million certifications and degrees and, it's like, doesn't matter. It's not, those aren't going to the grave with me. They were just things I did, but it's the biggest one is the busyness. And, I would say, my community is women. And so that's all sacral chakra. And so sacral chakra is receiving. It is intimacy. It is creativity. It is joy. It is prosperity. It is abundance. All of those are part of the sacral chakra, which is also a lot of feminine energy, which feminine energy is in everybody. Right. But it is just sort of like the world is speeding up. And it with technology and just everything, right? Like we're just like, what reality are we living in? It's just crazy that we have this how quickly did everybody get back to their busyness as soon as they thought the pandemic was over? Whatever even that means, right? Like everybody's having very, very different realities based on their own beliefs. Yeah. And I thoroughly enjoyed the pandemic for the most part, other than did I worry about the people that I loved who got sick? Of course. Did I have people who lost loved ones? Of course. Did I love slowing down and my kids homeschooling? Heck yeah. Do I love to travel? Yes. Did I still travel? Yes. Did I cancel retreats? Yes. So I was kind of, the whole thing was happening, but I enjoyed not having to say no so much. I think because I'm always like, I'm not a like go out with your girls type of person. I'm a homebody. I love to travel with my family, but I enjoyed that experience. And I've just noticed everybody already so quickly. The airports are insane right now, like so packed.
It's like, been busy over here, tourist area.
How quickly we just jump right back into old behaviors. Same thing with health, right? You always notice people have a little health crisis, and then as soon as, or exercise, you were a personal trainer. I'm going to exercise like crazy and lose 20 pounds. And then after I'm that way for a little while, like it's easy to slip back into those old habits. Like,
Right. We have to live consciously and design the living that we want. It's, I read autobiography of a yogi a while ago, and I started laughing because he said, now he came to the United States in 1920. So that was 100 years ago.
mhm.
And what he said about the United States was it's difficult to teach spirituality there because the people there are going so fast. It's hard to slow them down enough so that they can absorb the spiritual teachings and then, to understand them. And I'm like, that was 100 years ago.
Nothing has changed.
We're
We're just
going
going faster.
right. We're going, we're going 100 miles an hour back then. Now we're going 180. Like it's, this is like about a year and a half ago, I think, or 2 years ago, I was thinking about changing my podcast name to Slow Down. It's just slow down. And then what? Then slow down more. And then slow down more. And then after that, slow down more. And it's not just being conscious of your time. It's internally. It's just going from one thing to another. It's like when I came over here to visit, the pace over here is slower. The energy is different. And I was a lot more conscious. And what I was doing, I noticed I had to think about everything. Like I wanted to make coffee. Well, I don't have a Keurig here. Well, I need to use a coffee maker. Okay. Well, I can't use the tap water, so I have to use the other water. Oh, okay. Well, I have to use this pump thing on the 5-gallon jug to get the water out. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. It's not working right. Okay. Got it. Okay. And like I had to think about every little thing. So I found myself slowing way down and just consciously as I did things.
Mhm.
And I started moving slower. I would, grab the coffee slower and grab the spoon slower. And, and I'm doing stuff consciously. And it was so helpful to me. It just slowed the energy of my body. And I mean, I've been on this spiritual journey for, like I said, 18, 19 years or something. And this is still where I am, like 2 years ago, I'm like teaching myself to slow down making coffee. And I go way slower than 90% of the people on the planet, probably, So
Yeah, it's definitely a thing. It's, we talked about time, and it feels exponential. And not only that, but these younger generations really, and where we are, like we've become so uncomfortable with being present. When you go out to eat dinner, everybody's on their cell phone. It's the weirdest thing. Like,
it is weird.
and I don't know if I told you, I have a 16-year-old that refuses to have a cell phone. She's writing a book right now. It's called Open Up Your Eyes to the World Around You. Because
that's beautiful.
yeah, and she's my teacher. She's a manifester, not a manifesting generator, but she's a teacher. She's very in tune, strong-willed, which is challenging to parent. But she really is, but she's really just like, God, everybody is just so numb. Like, look around you, Mom. And, I use my phone and my computer for my business. I've made the choice to be an online coach. I love that I have access to people all over the world.
Right.
Do I love technology? Not really, but I do love that I get to connect with people all over the place. But that's another thing that I think that we're struggling with is we have instant access to everything. So like you said, the convenience of it, it's like we're so used to just immediate. If I want something, I get it. You travel a lot, you go to other countries, like you live in a different country now, you realize things don't happen that easily everywhere. And it's really nice. Yeah. And
yeah, I like it. Like, I asked people before I moved over here. I came over for a couple months, loved it, decided to move over. And I had never traveled internationally before. This is the first place I've ever traveled.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I've been to like 40 countries. I've been in Dominican Republic, and I have the intention to go back. I told you I'm a windsurfer. I still haven't converted to kite surfing. I'm so old school.
Yeah.
But my bestie here and I were always like, we're going to go to Dominican and Aruba, and I can't remember the name of the place, but she has a friend that owns one of like a resort over, I don't even know. I can't say.
Yeah, well,
Cabaret.
Cabarete is
That's
right
where it
near.
is, Cabarete, yeah.
Yeah, and that's right near where I live. So we'll definitely connect
We'll
when you come
probably
over.
see each other on the water because I know we're gonna do it because we will. We're like the
Yeah.
only people that still windsurf.
Yeah, there's a hole in Encuentro. There's a whole, regular surfing. Then they have the kite surfing. So they've
Yeah.
got both here. It's beautiful. But yeah, it's the what was I saying? The
The
action.
slowing down
Oh,
in
the
this country.
slowing down. It's over here. It's completely different. Everything is so much slower. It takes that conscious effort just to match the vibe. Like I was I was like, in the United States, everybody's going 100. I'm going 80 because I've worked on myself a lot. And then over here in the DR, everybody's going 50.
That sounds amazing.
So I'm like, I gotta bring it down even lower to match the vibe. And this is what I was gonna say. When I was talking about moving over, I asked people, what's the biggest problem you've had moving over? And basically they said convenience. They
Yeah.
said that it's, like getting things that you want can be challenging. Accomplishing things can take longer, stuff like that. So it's just not so it's just kind of convenience, and they're telling me this. And what I kept getting was like, I, I actually enjoyed the inconvenience over here. I liked not being able to order something on Amazon and have it the next day.
Yeah.
Like, I like that. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I still like being able to get stuff from Amazon over here, but it takes like 2 weeks and I have to pay extra for shipping and it's a whole process. So I have to think, like, I don't just,
Do I really want it? Yeah.
right. Do I
Because you
really
can't
want it?
return it. I bet you can't return it easily either, which
Right. You
is
can't return it.
yeah.
So it's bringing that mindfulness, that consciousness into making your decisions. When I went back to Florida before I moved over, and I'm like, I have 3 pairs of sunglasses. Why do I need 3 pairs of sunglasses? I bought a pair of sunglasses because I was biking every day. And apparently, I don't really remember thinking this, but apparently I didn't want to go to my car to get my sunglasses that was parked right out front of my place. I wanted to have a separate pair for biking that were with my bike. And it's like,
yeah.
it's just, it's stuff like that. It's like we just do this stuff and we don't even realize we're doing it. And like I said, I mean, I consider myself more conscious decision making than most. And this is the stuff that I see in my own life. So it's just bringing that consciousness in to choosing what we want our life to look like and making decisions and being conscious of our time, of our money, where we're putting it, and how we're using it. And yeah, it's living consciously, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And just with intention. And it actually is the most simple thing and it can create such a big impact.
Mhm.
Like just being consciously aware of the foods you're putting in your body, what you choose to receive, what you choose to give, what you choose to purchase, because that puts the energy out there. It says, I value this, it all matters and it's all energy. And that is exactly what there's the consciousness. And then to expand sort of beyond it, that prosperity consciousness, it does take a little bit more of that trust. It takes a little bit more of that commitment, that willingness. I like the word devotion.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a versus discipline. It's really about living in alignment with your values energetically and choosing. We get to choose again. So often we want to give our power away and just say like, we're not disempowered. You get to choose. Like we really do. Now I'm not talking about little children. I'm just talking about us as adults and where we are. Like we do, and in our country, not every person everywhere has all the same choices that we have. I'm just saying that we get to choose how we respond and how we show up. And when we choose to sort of let go of the constraints of time management and let go of the cultural conditioning and the expectations of what we think we're, quote, supposed to do anyway, when we let go of all that and we step into like just the embodiment of that present breath, and we choose consciously daily practice slowing down in every way, we become more present. We have a lot more to give. We're just more full on the energy of life, and we start to align ourselves with relationships that are serving us, and align ourselves with choices and connections that are aligned with us. And we enter relationships from a healthy place, from clarity, versus our wounded self that needs something or is attached to validation, people pleasing, victimization, whatever that is. And it all just starts from that present moment and just slowing down. So when you ask what the biggest block is, it is just not being aware and not choosing. So many people will say to me, it sounds crazy, but I just don't have time. I don't have time to do this thing that I know is going to be good for me. It's like, well, you either make time for it now or you're going to make time for it later. But
yeah.
Like it goes, we hear that about your health, but it's same thing about relationships, like everything. It's like you either take the time to be intentional and aligned now, or eventually it's going to talk back to you and it's going to be uncomfortable,
Yeah. I think you're right. We do have to take the time, and there's, we act like there's no consequences to our choices. Like oh, well, I have to. Oh, well, I'm just busy. And oh, I have to. Like, there's a consequence to everything. It's, if an animal decides not to eat, it starves to death and dies. It's a natural consequence. It's not a punishment. No, nobody's punishing you. It's just that there's natural consequences. And I think one of the things that we're doing right now in the world is where sustainability is a big word, and rightfully so, because we're living insustainably in just about every way humanly possible. So we're starting to get out of that, and we're starting to go solution based, and we're starting to look into sustainable ways of living. Well, it's not just about growing our own food or a political scenario. It's about our personal lives. It's in the microcosm as is the macrocosm. So it's about us living in a sustainable way, and burning the candle at both ends is unsustainable. Right. We need to start living and I think having kids is one of the most beautiful motivators. I think we have to change for ourselves, but that doesn't mean we can't have the love of our children as motivators to induce us to take those steps and make some of those changes. So it's, a lot of the stuff I did was because, well, it wasn't because, it was for me, because I was on my path of growth. But whenever I needed a kick in the ass, I would slow down and I'd be like, what am I showing my son? Like, I was in my, 30s and 40s raising him. What's he going to be like in his 30s and 40s? Is he going to be working himself to the bone? Is he going to call me up and go, Dad, my God, I've got 3 kids. 2 of them are playing soccer. 4 of them are, the other on 2 days a week, and they're on 3 teams, and they're playing the oboe and the freaking piano, and I don't know which way's up, and I'm working overtime, and I don't even know who my wife is anymore because we haven't seen each other. Like, is that what he's going to call me up saying? Because, like, unless I show him something different, I'm his role model. So unless I'm being a role model for something other than that, there's a decent chance that he's going to do that.
Yeah.
And I don't want that for him, so now, did I do it perfectly? No, I was starting my own business. So like I work too much sometimes and get caught up into it sometimes, but I also was at every soccer game except I think 2 in his entire life. And he played a lot of soccer. all over the place. So I mean, it's, like he was my priority and I was present a lot with him. And I know that that's going to bleed over into who he is, as his life becomes more complicated. The more complicated it becomes, the more stuff you have, the more conscious you need to become, so you can organize and be like, okay, what's my priorities here? Just like what you were saying. I love that, how you verbalized how the priorities are so important, and what you do shows what your priorities are. It's like, absolutely. And if we slow down, because if you just say that to somebody unconscious, they're going to be like, oh, you don't understand.
Yeah.
No, slow down, become present, breathe, come here, relax. And let me give you some examples of how you can change your life that are completely, well, I can't meditate. I don't have time anymore. You can't meditate 5 minutes. What's the difference if you set your alarm for 5:55 or 6 a.m.? How does that impact your life negatively?
Well, not only that, but meditation can look and feel in so many different ways. It doesn't have to be like for 5. I mean, really, like you could go for a walk in silence, and maybe that's where you start. Or listen, there's so many different gateways into it. It's for many years I was a yoga teacher, and one of the things that I still do retreats, but one of the things that I love is that it's just a gateway. It's a gateway for people to be sort of in their bodies, and then when they're there, you sort of like put your little spiritual life. Yeah. And they're like listening a little subconsciously. And so it's about the intention. If it's important to you, you make time for it. You get creative in ways that it works for you. You work with the idea, not against it. And the other component, the last thing that I would just say about prosperity consciousness is it is a lot about space. You need space to grow. So it's like taking care of plants. My plants are something that I've, over the last few years, have been a way that communicate to me when I'm too busy. My plants start to die because like, okay, I'm feeding my food. And so, but what I noticed is I would go from like not watering them for 2 weeks to then over watering them, and then they would get like rot, right? So it's like it wasn't balanced, and it was like I was smothering it with water. So if you kind of do too much, you can't grow. It's like a parent that's helicoptering their kid, like you can't grow. And so it's the same thing in your life. Definitely simplifying, detoxing, like clutter. I'm like the queen of like decluttering. It feels so good. Just today, my kids are like, today's the last day of school-ish. I'm like, are you guys ready to burn all your school stuff? And they're like, one more day, Mom, one more day. I'm like, I can't wait to get rid of all this stuff. It feels so good. I love trash day. I just love clearing energy, because what it does is it gives us more space to grow and flourish in the ways that we want to, whether it's food, your home, your relationships, or just your own personal space. Space to grow is super important. Receiving is important, just like it is with the plants. We all need water, we all need light, we all need love, we all need food. So those are ways that we receive. Receiving is important, space is important, intention is important. And, I liked that you brought up the piece of that non-issue, which I call non-attachment, again, because what I noticed is I had some really funny things happen with goal setting. Like I would set goals for myself and I would meet them exactly. And I'm like, she'll just say whatever it was. I started realizing, my goals are really limiting me. I should just leave it open for like whatever's available. And I started just kind of making it whatever's available and just making it more about the intention of a way of being versus a result. And the intention into your way of being will bring results, but you're not focused on the result is the difference. You trust the process. Yeah. You're not attached. in the flow of life.
Yeah, it's the joy of the journey. And instead, because unconsciously, a lot of times when we set specific goals, and I'm not saying that we can never set goals, I'm just saying people get too focused on them, I think. And it's like, if you're too focused on a goal, then basically unconsciously, 90% of the time, people, what they're doing is they're projecting that they're going to be happy once they reach their goal. So kind of everything's on hold until they reach their goal. Then they reach it and they're like, oh my God, I feel good. Look at how wonderful I am. I've reached my goal. And that lasts for about 15 minutes.
And then they set a
and then
new
they
goal.
go set another goal, you know, and it's like just enjoy what you're doing, you know, enjoy the journey, enjoy what you do. And then of course you're going to hit goals. You know, of course you're going to accomplish things in the process, but the joy is in the journey. It's not in the end. You know, there is no end. You know?
That's right. It's all that cycle of giving and receiving. Energy is not created or destroyed. It just changes form. So that's what we're doing. And you know, that it's funny because we started out talking about manifesting generators, and that's really the thing for the manifesting generator is just to only do the things they love. And that's all we're here to do. Things we love.
That's it. Yeah. And you know, and maybe we might have a propensity to it, or it might be a little more important or something for us because of our manifestor generator. But like, this is what that's our guidance system. This is what everybody needs to be doing. You need to be leaning into the things that bring you joy, because that's why they bring you joy. Like, I don't, you know, yeah. I mean, you know, we like some of the same things, you know, adventure wise, but like, I don't like doing it. There's tons of things that I don't like doing. I don't like cooking. We'll use that for example. Some people love cooking. I don't really like cooking. So I don't really do it too much.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, the reason I don't do it too much is because I don't like it, which sounds simple, but that's really important. Like, so when somebody likes cooking, know what they should do? Cook, because that's why you like it, because you know, that's our guidance system that tells us what we should be doing is the things that bring us joy. That's how we know we should be doing them. You know, it's very simple.
And if you're really lucky, like I think you and I have chosen, we did make these choices, but you know, you get to do it. Like, you get to do it for work, and you get to be in service, and you get to connect with people. And I still, like, you know, there were so many times in my life where I had job opportunities for like way more money doing things that were just not aligned with me. And I just think to myself, finally, like, it feels so good to be in a place where the fruits of my effort are received, and I get to, because I do want to like be in service, and then I get, you know, taken care of. I receive for it. And like, I just announced my Embodied Feminine retreat, which is actually going to be in Florida this year. My retreat is sold out in 3 days, and it felt good. I received it. I was like, I'm receiving this. Like, you know, I've put in the time, and that feels good to know that what I am putting out there is received for people, that it's aligned. And I think that's just like the bonus for our commitment to, you know, this type of work. And
yeah, it's that bonus that I like. You know, I've told people, like, what the reason I'm a life coach is because I enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
That's why I'm a life coach. It's not because I'm confident saying that I'm good at it at this point. I've been doing it long enough. I've helped enough people. I'm confident saying that I'm good at it. Do I help others? So, you know, from a service perspective, yes, my business is focused on helping others. So I am a person of service. Is that why I do it? No. I was a good personal trainer, and it helped people, and I'm not doing that anymore. Why? Well, because I didn't enjoy it anymore. That's why. So the fact that I'm good at it and it helps people, those are bonuses. That you know, like, that's not the why. The why is because it feeds my soul. I lose time doing it. I enjoy it. That's the why, you know?
Yeah. And it also allows us to be in that place of like, it really felt good to step into that place for me where I was like, this is what I do. And if it's aligned with you and you want to co-create in this space, let's go. And if not, that's okay too. Like, it feels so good to just be like, not
Authentic.
for everybody, and that's okay too. Where, I've been coaching for 12 years, and when I first started, like, I think maybe that's a new coach thingy, but it's kind of like, I thought, well, if people don't like what I'm saying, I must be doing something wrong. And now I'm just like, I say what I want to say, I do what I want to do, I have my beliefs. For those that it's aligned with, it's that clarity and it's that quality over quantity, and it's just like, again, it's liberating, it's freedom. It takes the sort of attachment energy out of it, and it's just like, it's that embodied trust, which is part of prosperity too. It's like just trusting that the aligned connections will come, because they do.
They do. As long as you're being authentic, then the people you're supposed to be working with can find you.
Yeah.
If you're not authentic and you're trying to be everything for everybody, then the people who are supposed to be working with you can't find you because you're not being you.
That is such a good point, actually. I don't know if you work with a lot of entrepreneurs or coaches, but that is such, like, somebody who's doing a podcast for entrepreneurs needs to hear that, because it's it could be that is a learned skill. That's a learned wisdom, probably from a manifesting generator too, because like you can do a lot. You could.
Yeah, I could, but it has to be authentic, because like I noticed that very early on when I started working. I started seeing avenues where I was like, like, we can do a lot of things. So I'm like, oh, I could do this, I could do this, I could do this, I could go in this direction. I saw all these directions, and I needed somehow to navigate what I was doing and what I wasn't. And so that's when the spirit's telling me, it's like, you got to be you. Like you can't veer from who you are. Like, you have to bring your personality into it. You have to. And so I just started doing it, and it served me well, and then and I look at it now, and it's like, so like when I'm reading comments on my podcast about like people saying that I should be doing different things differently. Like sometimes people write things like, oh, you should research scientifically the blah, blah, blah that you state, and then cite references and all this stuff, or, using that for an example. And what I hear when I'm reading that is, I shouldn't be listening to Glenn's podcast because he doesn't do blah, 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 blah. Like, I'm not going to change the way I do my podcast, because then it wouldn't be me. Like, wait, there's a whole bunch of people that do that thing that you just mentioned. You should be listening to theirs. Know why? Because you like that. It brings you joy. So you should listen to them. Yeah. There's almost 8 billion people in the world. If everybody liked me, I couldn't handle the freaking workload. So it's good that some people don't like the way I phrase things, or that I bring humor into it, or that I don't research all this stuff and I just channel information. It's good that it doesn't resonate with everybody, because I couldn't handle the workload if it did.
So true. And there's definitely someone for everyone. So
that's it. Yeah. This is why I don't believe in competition. Even when I opened up my first space many years ago, I used to bring in other life coaches, and people like, are you out of your mind? What are you doing? And I'm like,
that is such an interesting, that is a whole nother podcast. Cause I mean, that prosperity consciousness, I did realize that I was born with this naturally abundant sort of trust, despite what it looks like on the outside. There's just always been this thing within me that I've chosen to align with, which was trust. And that to me was the bridge to prosperity or abundance. It's just like knowing it's going to be okay. But it's so interesting. Even just, the scarcity thing and the competition thing, it's not a thing. It's like,
it's an illusion.
It's plenty for everybody, and it blows my mind. And it's actually, it's everywhere, but I was, I guess, kind of a little surprised to see it in the kind of a spiritual community context, but it's definitely there. And because it's everywhere, because it just is. But I like to grow and evolve. And if I were to compete, maybe it would be with myself or my old self. But like, as far as everybody else around, like there is plenty. And
Yeah.
that's a whole interesting.
That's a whole yeah. Tell nature that there's not enough.
Yeah.
Go start counting some blades of grass and tell me that there's no abundance in the universe.
Oh my gosh, that's a good one. I might have to use that one. Yeah.
Well, yeah, we've been on for an hour and a half.
Oh
I
my
guess
gosh,
we should
we
wrap
were
up.
not sharp. We were there goes the time.
Yeah, but this is okay because we're open-ended.
That's
people
right.
People can turn us off anytime.
That's right. Well, I have appreciated our time together, both you being on my show and me being on yours, and I will let you know when I come to Cabarete, because that is the place. My friend keeps saying that we have to go because our dream is just to, have everything all rigged up, because that's the thing with windsurfing is it takes so long to rig, and we're just gonna go for like a week and just all day long until we get dehydrated, basically.
That's it. I see I don't surf, but I see people doing it all the time, and it's not my thing. But I'm more of an aerial sport guy than a water sport.
Oh, you should try the kite surfing. You can get aerial.
Yeah, but I don't know. I haven't felt it yet. It's just that alignment. If it's right, that the time's going to be right, and I do my little gut check, and it's just like, yeah.
Listen
and then I lean in.
I told you should do something after we just said that we shouldn't say that to people, but it looks like something I want to try for sure. But yeah, sounds like you live in a beautiful place, so super happy for you.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And I'm up in the mountains, so it's a little more peaceful up here.
Amazing.
Down there. But I mean, I love going. I'm down in Cabarete every week.
Yeah.
Because that's that's the closest little beach town, and it's got a great vibe, tons of spirituality. It's really nice.
Yeah, that's what my friend said. I was like, "Are you just trying to get me to go?" No, but you would love it, I promise. So,
yeah.
Well, thank you so much for our time together and on this full moon and all this moon energy. My husband told me he went out to the beach this morning. The planets were all aligned, and the full moon was out. Him and my daughter decided to go in the ocean at like 6:00 this morning. I was like, "You do that." Yeah, I was like, I'm gonna sleep in till 7, but still, actually till 6:15, not even 7. But anyway, it's we're in an interesting time, and it's kind of fun if you're
open to it.
It's
a wave of energy. This is
totally riding that wave, and being in it is it's fun. And if you feel like you're kind of close to it, align yourself with people. This is what I want to leave the listeners with is align yourself with people that are in that energy of who you're becoming, and like put your intention and energy into who you're becoming, not who you've been. Not to dismiss it, but it's like all of that matter to get you to where you are now, and you get to choose. And where do you want to go from here? And just surround yourself with people who are in that space with you. I think is something that I'm always reminding myself. It's that clarity of who am I choosing to spend my time in conversations and energy with? Is it who I'm becoming, or is it really heavy over here and kind of pulling me down a little bit?
And do it however you need to. Like, I mean, if you need to join, like I started, it hasn't really taken off yet, but I started like a social media platform at glennambroseacademy.com. And it's just the place for like-minded people to join and be on social media, but have it more love-based, and there's groups on Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that. Like, I mean, I think, of course, having the personal connection in real life is much better. But like, I hear so many people saying that they don't know, well, there's no like-minded people. There's like-minded people all over the place. If you can't find them where you are, then find them online. Just start having healthier conversations. It doesn't matter if you have to start online. And then Google, yoga places are wonderful. Yoga studios are wonderful places for things other than yoga, because they have this open space. So a lot of yoga studios have found out they can rent their place for things like sound healings and gong baths and drum circles and, all this wonderful stuff where you can meet other people. And a lot of times when I first talk to somebody, they go, oh, I don't have anybody to talk to about this. It's like, well, have you called around to your yoga studio, see if they offer? No, that's a good idea.
The effort.
Right. Yeah. If you feel you're on the outside, it's probably because you are. So get on the inside, take the action and put the effort in to get in the middle and start connecting with people any way you can. And the universe will support you.
100%. As soon as you say yes to yourself, it's amazing how like the miracles it appears to just
people come out of the woodwork. All of a sudden you meet people at the grocery store and you end up talking about spirituality and you're like, no way.
It is. Once you it's just allowing yourself, giving yourself permission again to just receive, like just step into that place of intention and awareness and alignment and give yourself permission to receive those conversations. I always tell my kids, well, the answer is no if you don't try, right? Like you don't ask, you don't try, it's already a no. But if you do, it's a 50-50 at least. You're going from 0 to 50 already. So
right. That's perfect. Great.
Another thing I love is that rejection, my core wound is rejection. It's just clarity. That's all it is. It's like, okay, that didn't work. Now I know, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's not aligned. Okay, got it. That's
and
it.
if you're going towards what you want and what people call failing, like if your momentum is going towards what you want and you fall, where do you fall? Closer to your goal because your momentum is all going that way.
Yeah.
So like you're actually even making progress as you're falling, so it's okay to fall, it's going to happen. So yeah, all good. So we could obviously talk for 3 days.
Well, we probably could. And then we'd be really tired and,
Yeah.
But
that wouldn't be good for any. That would not be a wise use of time.
No, we would burn out, but we were here at 6:00 exactly. And I really do appreciate our time together. So thank you so much. And
I do too.
I look forward to, I'll send you a message on ways that I can share this with my audience because I think it's on your Facebook page. This is the first podcast interview I've ever done live, which I love the idea and I might be starting it myself. But if you can just let me know how I share it after the show, that'd be awesome.
Absolutely. And the only other thing I'm going to throw out there is I'm not 100% sure this is live. It's recorded. I'm recording it, but I'm not 100% sure it's live because I think I clicked.
It says it's
I don't
live.
know. I'm still learning. I don't usually have guests on, so I have to do it differently. So I know I'm recording it. So as soon as we finish, what I'm going to do is double check. And if it didn't go live, I'll just release it live, in like 15 minutes.
Yeah, no worries. Super awesome. And if I can just say, if anybody is, interested in me or what I do, I'm at jenmons.com and jen.mons on Instagram. Super easy name, JEN.MONS. And I love conversations just like Glenn does. So love connections, community. It's one of my values. So that's where you can find me.
Awesome. And yes, for my listeners, I said a little thing in like the teaser. I was like, you guys know I have great guests on because it's true. I don't worry about competition. So I will bring other people on, but I don't bring just anybody on. So
I'm receiving this. I'm receiving it. Thank you.
Good. Yes. So I brought you on because I value your outlook. And I think that, after my years of doing this, that you are dead on with what you speak. So,
thank you.
So I appreciate it.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I'm receiving that. Thank you.
Excellent. You're welcome. All right. Well, I am going to hit my little closing thing. Where are we? I'm so technical now.
Well,
All right, here
I'm
we go.
just going to remove myself. So thank you so much. And for
All right.
everybody listening, and I'll see more of you later.
Sounds good.
Aloha.
Take care. Thank you.
Looking for more? Check out over 200 episodes of Life Lessons in Laughter, or click the link in the description of this episode to connect with Glenn directly.